All right, the mic is live, and here we go. What's going on, everybody? My name is Chris. I'm also known as the Dark Avenger all throughout the internet, and you are here with me once again for another episode of the Dark Avenger Podcast, the podcast that has officially restarted on SoundCloud next month. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but this is episode 0. This is the grand re-entry to the Dark Avenger Podcast, the podcast where you will hear anything and everything from... Oh, what? You were expecting intro music before we got into the episode? Well, I was thinking this is episode 0, so I mean, we really don't need intro music for an episode 0. It's really all like a prelude to what's going to be... All right, fine. Play that music!
I got something to say, so listen good. Ain't nobody gonna jump on me, 'cause there's a price that we pay, and I think we should. Why can't people just let me be?
Alright, and intro music aside now, as I was saying, everybody, welcome back to the Dark Avenger Podcast. This is actually Volume 3 of the Dark Avenger Podcast series. I'm going to get into all that. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm horrible with intros. I've tried this intro multiple times already, so I'm going to be talking to two people here. Number one, welcome back to everyone who's been following the Dark Avenger Podcast since Volume 1 or even Volume 2. For those of you that are just finding the Dark Avenger Podcast, whether it be on YouTube or SoundCloud or a combination, welcome. I'm going to be covering everything that the Dark Avenger Podcast was, is, and will be moving forward as we get through this episode. That's what this episode is all about. Reintroducing the series to new listeners, reintroducing the series to old listeners, and moving forward with a little bit of the history of the podcast as well. And that's, I think, a good place to start in this episode 0 is the Dark Avenger Podcast. Now, the Dark Avenger Podcast Volume 1 started on SoundCloud about 2 or 3 years ago. It ran for a good almost 10 episodes, and then due to multiple reasons, we ended up having to back out of our plan on SoundCloud. So I moved the podcast over to YouTube and started Volume 2, which was called the Dark Avenger Podcast YouTube Files. That was the podcast that was exclusively and only ever will be on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel right now. If you guys would like to check out all 10 episodes, they're there. It was a temporary move. There just was no set date for when the Dark Avenger Podcast would be returning to SoundCloud. At one point, I didn't think it would be returning to SoundCloud, but here we are, April 2018, and we are recording episode 0 of the Dark Avenger Podcast, getting ready for episode 1 in May, my birth month, to hit SoundCloud and to start SoundCloud all over again. Now, I want to just take a brief moment out. For those of you that are new, you're going to notice I say we a lot sometimes, and you're like, but Chris, you're one person. Yes, I am one person. When I say we, I'm talking about the Dark Avenger Nation. And what is the Dark Avenger Nation? Well, the Dark Avenger Nation is me. It's you. It's everyone that's been a part of whatever I do all throughout the internet. Anyone who's followed, subscribed, or anything within the Dark Avenger C86 world. That is what we are. And we have a community over on the Comic Frontline Discord, which I will talk about. And that's what the Dark Avenger Nation is. It's all of us, everyone. If you're new, hopefully you'll enjoy enough and want to join the Dark Avenger Nation. And we talk about everything. That's what this podcast is all about. Everything and anything. And that's what it was for the first 2 volumes, and that's what we're going to be focusing on with the Dark Avenger Podcast moving forward. But before we talk about the present and the future, which I'm really excited for, and there's a lot to come, not just for the Dark Avenger Podcast, but for the Dark Avenger SoundCloud, let's rewind a moment and let me introduce myself for those of you that don't know me or are new to the podcast. Like I said, my name is Chris. I go by the Dark Avenger all throughout the internet, but now there are a lot of Dark Avengers out there. If you type in Dark Avenger generally, you're going to get a lot of Dark Avengers. My tagline is Dark Avenger C86. I started on YouTube. I have a Twitter, Instagram. I have a Tumblr, which I rarely use. Same thing with my blogger. I rarely use that now as well. I'm mostly on the Comic Frontline blogger when I'm doing posts, but that's where you can find me. I'm also on Twitch as Dark Avenger Gaming, and I also have a second Twitter account specifically for my gaming, which is called Dark Avenger Gaming or D Avenger Gaming as well. So I do have 2 Twitters, one that's dedicated to my general stuff that I do, and one that's dedicated specifically for my gaming and my Twitch channel. But I'm all over the place. I try to reach out as far as I can in social media and in all the websites. I have a wide variety of hobbies and enjoyments. I am also on Facebook. There is a Dark Avenger C86 Facebook page, which basically is a culmination of everything, including Dark Avenger Gaming. My Instagram is a culmination of everything, including Dark Avenger Gaming. I only ever separate Dark Avenger Gaming, obviously on Twitch, because that's my Twitch handle, and I also do it on Instagram, on Twitter, so this way I don't clog up my Twitter with comic news, life news, regular news, and then gaming news. So gaming has its own little separate part on Twitter, but everywhere else it's combined. And I'm everywhere. I enjoy comic books. I started on YouTube on another channel called Brooklyn Boys 13, where we did a wide variety of really crazy and silly videos, borderline stupid videos. Then I created my own channel, which is a comic review channel, but I like doing a wide variety. My channel is kind of like this podcast. It's a wide variety of things, but the heart and soul of the channel has always been and will always be comic books. But there are things that surround comic books that I enjoy that I do share on my Dark Avenger C86 channel as well. I am also a founder and poster on Comic Frontline, which is my group, my website, our website. I say my, but it's our, because there is a huge group over there on Comic Frontline, so it's our website. It is a website where you can check out news, reviews, and more. But that's the group. Coming back to me, like I said, I have Dark Avenger C86. I do a wide variety of videos on there. The Dark Avenger Podcast actually was one of the video series I did on there, and I'm going to be posting this podcast still on YouTube, but I'm going to be doing it a bit after SoundCloud. So if you're hearing this episode, it's on YouTube first, but episode 1 will be exclusively on SoundCloud first, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I'm very friendly. I'm easy to find. On Discord, you can find me on Comic Frontline, like I said. You could also find me on Dysfunctional Gaming, which is a awesome gaming community Discord that I am a part of and proud first member of the month of. You can go check out all the links on my YouTube channel. In my video descriptions, I have a bunch of links on there. I'm going to figure out how to do that on SoundCloud as well, so this way you can follow the links there too. But yeah, I'd like to touch everything. I love comic books. I love gaming, as I mentioned to you guys. I collect certain collectibles. I've done reviews and spotlights on certain collectibles. I dabble in toy collecting a little bit, depending on what type of toy it is. I've had Marvel Legends, I've had statues, PVCs, you name it. I'm in almost everything. The one thing that a lot of my fellow frontliners are in that I'm kind of lacking in, because I'm into all these hobbies, is movies and TV. Movies and TVs, I'm very touch and go. I do watch a lot of the Marvel movies. I do watch a bit of the DC TV series in their DVD formats. I don't really watch like religiously on TV weekly, but I do try to keep up with all the comic stuff going on TV. But I'm not a humongous TV and movie person. I am also very into anime. I do enjoy anime. But again, being in comics and gaming and all these other things kind of takes a bit away from the TVs and movies side of my life. I'm also a father, so that takes top priority over everything. And I am a very honored comic writer over on Last Ember Press. I have a book that not just myself and my co-writer Brant are currently writing, called Celestial Falcon. It's a story I wrote way back when I was 15 that Brant and I are now breaking down and modernizing and making into a comic book. Issue 1 is already out. Issue 2 is in the works as I'm recording this podcast. We had an awesome writing session recently for issue number 2. And we're also working on issue 3 for this year as well. Writing is a huge passion of mine, and it all came from my reading of comics. I fell in love with reading comics, and then I wanted to write stories for myself that now I'm sharing with the world. The comic that brought me into comic collecting was Superman Forever. Superman, obviously, is my number one favorite character. My number one favorite series, that if I had to drop every single comic series except one, Superman would be that one that I would never drop. I never see myself dropping it. I tried to drop it once, and it only took 3 months for me to return to it. But in my defense, it was during New 52, where Superman was anything but Superman. So that is my defense on that. But yes, comics are my number one favorite thing, followed by video games and everything else that I mentioned. Like I said, I'm very friendly. You can find me on Discord. We can talk about whatever you'd like. If it's movies and TVs, though, I might be a little bit lacking in the knowledge or discussion department. I'm still having to catch a few movies that I missed out on watching that have been out that a lot of people are talking about. But like I said, I'm around everything else. So if you'd like to talk, find me on Discord. On Discord, I'm Dark Avenger 1450. You can find me on, like I said, Comic Frontline, Dysfunctional Gaming. And we can talk. I love talking with people. I love meeting people. The reason I do this podcast, the reason I do the shows that I do, the reason I do everything on the internet that I do is because I love, number one, I love meeting new people. Number two, I love entertaining people. Number three, I love sharing my passion for fill in the blank, comics, video games, collectibles, toys, with other fellow collectors of fill in the blank, or gamers if they like gaming. I love gaming with other people. I've made friends with a really great group of guys called Bitter Old Goons Gaming. I'm actually currently doing Sea of Thieves with them. But yeah, that's what motivates me and drives me to do everything that I do on the internet, from every part of the internet. So that's me, and that's the Dark Avenger Podcast. So there you go with the past and the introduction. So let's talk about the present and the future. And when it comes to the Dark Avenger Podcast, you all can expect exactly what I've been doing since day one with the Dark Avenger Podcast. And that is a wide variety of everything from life, comics, video games, events in my life, events going on in the world. Heck, we might even have some guests on, whether they be comic writers, fellow YouTubers, fellow community members from gaming, comics, wherever. This is going to be one of those shows that every time you tune in, it's going to be something possibly different. It could be something that's the same. I don't know. It's a surprise, and that's what I've always liked about the Dark Avenger Podcast. It could be anything, and that's one thing that I know a lot of the people who've listened to this show really, really enjoy, and that's why I'm really happy people enjoy it, and that's what actually makes me want to strive to continue moving forward, getting this show back on SoundCloud. But I did mention that the podcast was not going to be on SoundCloud until May, and a lot of that has to do with expenses. A lot of games were released throughout the past couple of months. As a matter of fact, they've been coming out since the very beginning of the year, so we decided to focus a lot on the games coming out and the stuff that was coming out at the beginning of the year, and then once everything kind of calmed down a little bit is when the podcast would come back, and May is where that calm period is starting. So that's why I said, you know what, May, my birthday, we could do the first 2 episodes on YouTube, even though this episode kind of got pushed because the past couple of months have been really busy, which is a great thing. It's been a very, very productive year so far, and we'll talk about that after I talk about all the stuff involved with the podcast. But I'm really happy that it's been a productive year, I will say that. And it's because of that Episode 0 was pushed all the way till now, which is April, which is great because it works out perfectly. So when May comes around, Episode 1 will drop and Episode 0 will also be on SoundCloud. Now, as far as the scheduling goes, the Dark Avenger Podcast is at a minimum going to be at least once a month, but it could be more than once a month. It really all depends on how much stuff I have to talk about and what I have to talk about. And it also depends on something else that I'm going to tease in a moment. But minimum, you will always have at least one Dark Avenger podcast each and every month. Maximum is however many I can or am able to record. So that's something to look forward to as well when it comes to the Dark Avenger podcast. There's a minimum, but there's never a maximum. You never know how many you're going to get in a month, and you never know what's going to be on them. That's the beauty and the surprise of the Dark Avenger podcast. Now, before we get into some really cool news that I'm very, very excited about and hopeful that this actually happens, I do want to mention one last thing that I'm kind of still debating about, but I'm swaying more towards the latter choice. Now, when we move back to SoundCloud next month for episode 1, it's going to be exclusively on SoundCloud. Now, I can either make all the podcasts exclusive to SoundCloud only, or, and this is what I'm swaying towards, after a couple of weeks, maybe a month, taking those podcasts, making a video format of it, and posting it on YouTube. That's what I'm siding closer towards, but at the same time, we're going back to SoundCloud, and we want people to come to SoundCloud, or my SoundCloud is attached to iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to the podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher. But then I'm thinking, do I want to put the cast after it's out for a while on YouTube? And I'm swaying towards yes. I'm thinking maybe a month after the cast is out, or a month after whatever is out, taking it and making a video format and putting it on Dark Avenger C86 on YouTube. But I'd love to hear your feedback as well. Let me know what you think. Do you think we should keep the podcast exclusive to SoundCloud only, or should it be available for people who either don't want or can't access SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher for one reason or another? Should the podcast be on YouTube after it's on SoundCloud for 2 to 4 weeks? I'd love to hear your feedback on it. I'm swaying more towards yes after about a month putting it on YouTube when the next cast is coming out on SoundCloud. But again, I'd love to hear your feedback. So feel free, everyone, to leave comments. And if you're listening to this episode on SoundCloud, I will have comments on all of the casts I do on here. So feel free to comment and give your input as well. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud and you're like, hey, I'm on YouTube also, so this might work out better for me on YouTube. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? This is one of those things, and I'm going to have this every now and again where I want feedback from you, the listeners. So hopefully all of you will give your feedback in the comments, whether it be on YouTube or a month from now on SoundCloud. Let me know what you think. Where should I sway more? Should it be exclusive to SoundCloud, or should it be on SoundCloud for about a month and then post it on YouTube? I'd love to hear your feedback, and I can't wait to hear it in the comments below. So now we're going to get into some really exciting, cool teasers that I want to put a really quick disclaimer out there that none of this is set in stone yet, and nothing's scheduled as far as starting or scheduled in general for anything. So what I'm about to mention, take with a little grain of salt. They are on the table. They are being planned out there. Ideas and things that I'm hoping to get out at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, but they're all in the planning stages right now, and nothing is 100% yet. I'd like to say a lot of them are 90, 80% set, so don't be upset if one of the things I mentioned that you get excited about don't happen, but my hope and what we're going to work towards is getting all of this on the SoundCloud. So let's get into some teasers. Now, first of all, we all already know the Dark Avenger Podcast, the main podcast that's going to be on the SoundCloud, the Anything and Everything show where every episode is a surprise. But I didn't want to stop there. That's right, everybody. I'm working out adding a couple of really awesome podcasts to the SoundCloud. So like my Dark Avenger comic book reviews are the heart and soul of my YouTube channel, the Dark Avenger Podcast is going to be the heart and soul of the SoundCloud. However, there are going to be other programs surrounding it as well. So the SoundCloud is not going to be just the Dark Avenger Podcast, but it'll be a wide variety of things surrounding the heart and soul, which will be the Dark Avenger Podcast. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to say the title of the podcast, and then I'm going to give a brief description of what the podcast is going to be about at this point in time. Remember, everything's still in the planning stages, so minor tweaks and changes could happen before the show comes out, if the show comes out. Like I said, everything's 90%, but nothing is set in stone yet. And for a lot of you that already know me and have known all the work I've done throughout the past couple of years, you might be familiar with a lot of these podcasts. But for those of you that are new, I'm going to reintroduce these podcasts. And for those of you that know this podcast, there's going to be a couple of tweaks that change the podcast. So honestly, it's reintroducing it to everyone, familiar and unfamiliar with them. And we're going to start off with It's a Podcast. Or as the full title goes, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's a Podcast. Originally, that was my comic podcast. Comic news, comic reviews, comic discussions, all of that is what made It's a Podcast. But the problem I was facing was it had nothing special to it. Everything I discussed on It's a Podcast, I did somewhere else, or in multiple places across the web, depending. Between all the podcasts I was doing, the live shows, and my own Dark Avenger comic book review, there was nothing special about It's a Podcast. And then I came up with something. Now, of course, the comic discussion and news, there's nothing I can do. I talk and review and am part of the comic media. So I am going to talk about certain topics and certain comics in multiple places. There's no way to avoid that. But what I can do for It's a Podcast that will make it special is all of you know I read a lot of comics, but I only review a handful of them. There are a few comics, I'd say you could count them maybe on two hands, maybe a little bit more than two hands, but I do read a handful or hands full of comics that I don't review, that I just read for honestly my own pleasure. This is where It's a Podcast is going to shine, because if all works out, what will make It's a Podcast special and probably only monthly is the books that I don't review on the Dark Avenger comic book review, I can discuss on It's a Podcast, kind of doing a Raw and SmackDown, so to speak, in comic reviews. Raw being the Dark Avenger comic book review, where I review all the books that I normally review, and then It's a Podcast being me discussing all the other books that I read that I don't review on the Dark Avenger comic book review. So basically, exclusive comic book discussions and reviews for It's a Podcast. But again, now these are comics that I read, not to review, which is why I say they'll be comic discussions or me talking about the comics more than me reviewing them. It'll be me more just sharing my thoughts on the comics instead of reviewing them like I do on the Dark Avenger comic book review. But I like that because it gives It's a Podcast something exclusive to it, something special to it that makes it stand out from all the other stuff I talk about online. And books that I read that, for example, that I don't review: Mighty Thor, Miss Marvel, G.I. Joe. Transformers I'm very far behind on, so I doubt that would ever make it to It's a Podcast. But that's just a handful compared to all the other books that I do read from all the companies, not just Marvel and DC, but there are independents I read as well. So figure it would be monthly because it would have to be a culmination of all 4 weeks worth of comics. That's why It's a Podcast actually does have kind of a set. If I do bring It's a Podcast back, it would be monthly because it would have to be the whole month's worth of books that I casually read for my own time. So that's why that does kind of have a slotted time. However, again, it's all in the works. Okay, up next, Hit Points. For those of you that know Hit Points was mine and Brant's gaming discussion podcast. And now that Brant and I are playing games again, and my Michael's getting into games again, I figured this would be a good time to bring Hit Points back. However, there are months where a lot happens, and then there are months when nothing happened, and that's where Brant and I were struggling with Hit Points, when there was absolutely nothing to talk about or no new game that we were playing to discuss. So in Hit Points case, it's one of those podcasts where if there's something to talk about and a group of us to talk about it, or even just for myself, me alone to talk about, if there's something to talk about, we or I could do Hit Points. If there's nothing to talk about, there's no Hit Points. So Hit Points would be one of those shows where there would have to be something to discuss, like E3, PAX, a new game that came out, or our discussion of a game that we played together. Like I said, Brant and I have been playing a lot of games together lately. So something like that would have to happen in order for there to be a Hit Point. So Hit Points is one of those podcasts that would be only if there's something to talk about. And again, it's still in the planning stages. I'm sure we could... Brant and I tried a different approach to Hit Points with Hit Points Unlocked. Unfortunately, that didn't work out as well. So with Hit Points, we're still kind of figuring out whether, first of all, it will be a group podcast, or if I'll do it alone, or if Brant has the free time, we'll do it together, and when we'll do it. And if it'll be monthly, if it'll be bi-monthly, every 3 months, or just whenever there's something to talk about. So that's still in the works, but there is a video game podcast in the works, and it's going to be Hit Points because we have a video game podcast title already. Now, speaking of Brant, the Chris and Brant Show. That's a live show Brant and I do from time to time on YouTube. And I was thinking it'd be awesome if we could take the audio from those live shows and bring it over to SoundCloud. Now, obviously, that will be something that originates from YouTube, but I'd like to bring it over to SoundCloud as a podcast. So that's another little idea I had. Now, Brant and I haven't done a Chris and Brant show in a while, but we have talked about it. I mean, right now things are super busy, but as the year goes on and things lighten up, we might actually go back to doing a monthly Chris and Brant show. So I'll take the show, take the audio from it, and put it on SoundCloud. That's just a thought. Again, this is one of those shows where I'm at the 80% because it really depends on, number one, if we do the show, and number two, if we do it monthly, and number three, if we decide we want to have the audio on SoundCloud. But it's still an idea, and I wanted to share it because you never know. Now, this last podcast is in its earliest of early stages, so early that we have the title, but we're really not sure where we want to go with it yet. So honestly, this will probably be the last podcast to come out on the SoundCloud, or quite possibly the only one out of all 5 of these that will get the axe. And I'll give you guys the title, I'll give you guys the history, and then I'm going to leave it at that. BBoys Cast. Now, for those of you that have followed Mike and I on Brooklyn Boys 13, we did have a podcast on there a while ago. It was called BBZ Cast, and that was where my brother and I got together with a group of our friends, and we just had a random kind of assortment of things, and we had a couple of episodes. We did a couple of episodes, and then things kind of started to fall out, scheduling, and a couple of the episodes, things kind of went off the rails a little bit further than all of us wanted, but they did. And long story short, the podcast ended. So with BBoys Cast, my brother and I were thinking, we have a very popular series we do on Brooklyn Boys called the Brooklyn Boys 360, and that's where Mike and I and a group of other fellow Brooklyn Boy members get together and we just talk about anything and everything, what's going on in our lives, what we've got that we're doing, our thoughts on certain topics. And, we're still kind of playing with that idea, but we're trying to make it something unique that would bring something to the podcast. So we're still kind of planning it all out. We have no clue what we want to do quite yet. But again, this is one of those podcasts that are kind of in its very young, early stage. So again, you probably won't be seeing this podcast for quite some time. And those are all the teasers, everybody. I hope you guys are excited as much as I am, and I hope to hear your thoughts in the comments below about all the podcasts. B-Boys, if you don't have a comment for it, that's okay. Again, we don't know where we're going with it, if we're going with it. But I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on the podcast. And if there are no thoughts on it yet, that's fine. Hopefully everybody will enjoy them as they come out. That's the main important reason why I'm trying to figure out more than just one podcast to have on the SoundCloud. And just like the Dark Avenger Podcast, all of the podcasts will be exclusive to SoundCloud first. And then if I decide later on, whether it be 2 to 4 weeks later, I'll post them over on YouTube for people to listen to them on YouTube. But again, I would love for you all to go check out the SoundCloud. That's going to be the big thing when it comes to the podcast from May onward. And those are the teasers. That's all that we have that are in the works right now. We're not adding or looking to add anything else at this point. So right now there are tentatively 4 podcasts that will be on the SoundCloud. The 5th one, if we can figure something out, for BBoys Cast. And I'm super excited and super pumped. I cannot wait for us to get back to SoundCloud in a couple of weeks. Moving away from that now and coming back to this episode of the Dark Avenger Podcast. Like I was saying before, this year has been super, super busy and super productive. And for those of you that followed the Dark Avenger Podcast YouTube files, you know that the last couple of episodes I was saying 2017 was one of my worst years in a long time. I felt like I got nothing done, and creatively I was in a slump. So January 2018 hit, and creativity, productivity has come so far. It's only been 4 months and so much has happened in those 4 months. I'm so happy to say that this year is panning out to be the exact opposite of last year, and I'm super happy about that. Celestial Falcon issue 2 is underway. Issue 3 is right after it. YouTube wise, I'm slowly trying to bring my channel back a little bit. For those of you that didn't know or do know, my channel has gone through a billion different phases. And then, of course, the YouTube thing happened where YouTube took partnership away from a bunch of different channels because they didn't meet the new criteria. And you guys can't see what I'm doing, but I'm doing the air quotes. And, well, my channel was one of those channels that did not meet the new criteria. So that kind of fueled me into saying, oh, yeah? The Dark Avenger Nation does not meet your requirements, YouTube. So I went back to my channel and started doing a couple little extra things. Now, as you all know, the Dark Avenger Comic Book Review Show, that's been going on every single week. It did change up. Michael and I did change up the show a bit as of January. It is under a different format, but still going on. And then there's some additional videos now. My thoughts on some breaking news, my thoughts on certain topics. We had the YouTube file version of the Dark Avenger Podcast for a time. Now we're back to this podcast. Some unboxings, some reviews of things outside of comics, and there's a bunch of other things that are going to be popping up on there. Why? Because I'm not partnered anymore, and you know what? My channel has always been Comics at the heart and soul. Always will be. I am the Dark Avenger, damn it. So I will always be comics number one. But not just comic reviews. A bunch of other videos as well. And you know what? I think that's why, as I'm building the channel back up, more people are coming back. Because I've seen it. I've seen the results of me doing the things I used to do on my channel. And there were a bunch of reasons. You know, I was busy doing a lot at once. And I wasn't. That was one of my problems, I think, in 2017, was I wanted to do a lot. And I did nothing. This year, I have a set amount of things I want to do, and I'm getting them done. Instead of putting a lot on my plate and then doing nothing, I put a moderate amount of things on my plate, and I'm doing them all. And I love it. And I love how great this year has been so far. Oh, you all know, because I hope you all have been with me. And if you haven't been with me, that's okay if you're new. If you're new and you like gaming, like I said, go check out the Twitch. The Twitch has been building up. If you love comics, if you like collectibles, go check out the YouTube channel, and you're going to see some fun stuff there. If you like pictures, go check out my Instagram, because I love taking pictures of all the things that we get, and very soon I'm going to be adding different kinds of pictures to my Instagram as well. But beside the point, things have been definitely building up a lot since 2018 has started, and they have no end in sight, which is freaking awesome and exciting for me. And YouTube no longer being partnered doesn't bother me. It just fuels me to want to continue doing what I do, because you know what? I never made a single cent from YouTube anyway. So it doesn't bother me that I'm not partnered. As a matter of fact, now I have less to have to worry about with the guidelines, because when you're partnered, you get extra guidelines you have to follow. Now I don't have ads on my videos, so I don't have to worry about being ad friendly. Even though I'm kind of still ad friendly, that didn't change. I mean, I'm still ad friendly. If I was to have ads right now, every single one of my videos would have ads. It's just now I don't feel like, you know, it's hard to explain the feeling of how I feel now as opposed to when I was partnered. And I'm sure at some point, I don't know when, but I'm sure at some point that the nation will get back to the point where YouTube offers us partnership. And the question then will be if we accept it, or if we tell them where they can take their ads and put them. And now really quick, I'm talking about all this stuff with YouTube, and I actually did put this down as the last thing to talk about, and I think this is a perfect segue. You know, I'm going back to SoundCloud. I'm streaming my games exclusively to Twitch now instead of on YouTube through Frontline Gaming Zone. And I don't want people to think that, you know, I'm leaving YouTube. I'm very frustrated with YouTube. From the point of the very beginning of the year where that idiot did that video, and you all know who I'm talking about, and it hurt all the smaller channels, to their policy where hundreds of thousands of channels lost their partnership, quote unquote, because they didn't meet the new criteria that happened because of said idiot plus other people who were doing stupid things on YouTube. But that's beside the point. Yes, I'm very frustrated with YouTube, but I'm not giving up on YouTube. I'm still on YouTube, and that's why I'm doing not only my Dark Avenger comic book review show, but I'm doing other videos. I'm not giving up on YouTube. I'm just branching out from it. When it comes to game streams, Twitch is a very good platform. It's an awesome platform, as a matter of fact, when it comes to streaming games. I like Twitch better than YouTube. Does that mean YouTube sucks? No. It just means that Twitch has the better stuff for gaming streams. And yes, I like Dark Avenger Gaming on Twitch, and that's why I stream my games there. When it comes to podcasts, SoundCloud is better, which is why I'm going to SoundCloud with the podcast, why we're going to SoundCloud. It doesn't mean I'm leaving YouTube. It just means that I'm branching out from it. And again, YouTube was never my source of income. Never was. Probably never will be, because never will be. And YouTube probably doesn't have money. They're just claiming they have money. But again, just because I'm going to SoundCloud, just because I'm on Twitch, doesn't mean I gave up on YouTube. And nobody should give up on YouTube. I see so many people after this new criteria dropped. A lot of people gave up on YouTube. And I made episode 10 of the YouTube files on purpose. I did a whole speech about why no one should give up, and they should use this as a fuel to prove that they can get back to their partner status. But a lot of people have left YouTube for one reason or another. Some people are saying YouTube is a dying brand or a dying site. And the truth of the matter is, no, it's not. I mean, whenever you go on websites and they have videos, 90% of the time, if it's not from the website's player itself, it's from YouTube. I don't see other websites using Dailymotion. I don't see other websites. VidMe is gone. I mean, I tried VidMe and VidMe shut down. I remember them saying the website lost funding and died. So VidMe is gone. So all that's left is YouTube and Dailymotion. And I don't see websites using Dailymotion half as much as I see them using YouTube. YouTube is one of those things where it's kind of like Facebook. It's kind of like Twitter. Even if you hate it and you say it's a dying brand, no, it's not, because it's the only one that a lot of websites are using. TV news is on there. Talk shows are on there. There's a cable system on there. There's YouTube Red, and then there's YouTube Music. YouTube is branching out into all these different things. Now, I'm not saying YouTube has money. I'm not saying, because there is no money here. I literally made the statement, YouTube, there is no money here. That's the tagline. But YouTube is not a dying site. YouTube is very much going to be around for a very, very, very long time. It's owned by Google. Okay? And Google is a very, very rich brand. Okay? The stock for Google is huge. As Trump would say, it's huge. So, I swear I won't quote him anymore. I thought that was funny. Anyway, YouTube is owned by Google. YouTube isn't going anywhere. VidMe went somewhere. It went out. Dailymotion will go out before YouTube does. If ever. I don't think I'm not saying Dailymotion is going to go out. I don't think Dailymotion will ever go out either, because they have their own thing going on as well. It's kind of like Netflix and Hulu. Both of them exist, and both of them are okay with each other. They're not in competition, and at the same time they live. YouTube and Dailymotion are not. They are technically, but they're not a threat to one another. They have their own entities. So people who leave YouTube and then say, oh, it's a dying brand, no, it's not. Other people who leave for other reasons, that's their own choice and their own thing, and that's up to them. But for people who are leaving because it's, and then saying it's a dying brand because I'm leaving and because they're stupid, no, unfortunately, Google owns it. Google has the money, and it's not dying. It's everywhere. YouTube is literally the video format, the video place, and that's why newer YouTubers are having the hardest time even getting recognized, because there are billions of channels. You have to understand, people can create as many channels as they want. There are billions and billions of channels. I'm not the only Dark Avenger on YouTube. However, I'm one of the few Dark Avengers that post on YouTube. But again, I'm Dark Avenger C86. I own up to that name. I don't own up to saying I am the Dark Avenger, the only Dark Avenger. Every other Dark Avenger is not a Dark Avenger because I own the name. No, I am Dark Avenger C86. I own up to that name, and that's who I am. So, YouTube's not going anywhere. Don't get me wrong. I'm frustrated with them. They frustrate the hell out of me. However, they're not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. So, you know what? It's even. We're even. They're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not discouraged. They want to keep their partnership or take my partnership away from me. That's fine. Keep it. I wasn't getting anything from it anyway. I just now am using that as fuel to continue my videos and my expanding. But I just want to make it clear that my choice to go to SoundCloud, or my choice to move us to SoundCloud for the podcast, has nothing to do with that. I made that choice way before I lost partnership, way before that email even came out. I made that choice. Same thing with Twitch. I made that choice a long time before that email went out. I do Twitch because I think Twitch is the place to stream games. I do SoundCloud because I think that is the place to put your podcasts. And that's that. I mean, you gotta understand, YouTube is gonna go through a lot of motions. And I think we as YouTubers, I do consider myself a YouTuber, have to understand that, getting to that popularity plateau, it's literally luck. You get lucky one day and one video gets you there, or you work your butt off, like what a lot of YouTubers who are popular today do. You just keep working your butt off, and then one day you hope it comes back and it pays off. And if it doesn't, the whole point of doing videos on YouTube is for fun. That's why I do it. I do it for fun, and I do it because I love doing it, and I do it because I love entertaining people, and I do it because I love the people that come to my channel and enjoy my content. That's my reason for doing YouTube videos. That's my reason for doing podcasts. Twitch, that's my reason for streaming Twitch games, because people enjoy watching my content. Some of them come on live while I'm playing the game, and we have a nice conversation while I'm playing the game. That's just the way it is. That's how it works, and that's how I think it should be. If you're doing it to try to make it a job, and you're taking it super, super serious, it's gonna bite you in the butt, and you're gonna get frustrated, and you're gonna want to quit. Do it for fun, and if you make money while doing it for fun and because you love it, that's a great thing. But if you don't make money, don't be upset. That's just the way it is. I work outside of YouTube. I have a job outside of YouTube. My income is not dependent on my views or my subscribers or my YouTube amount of money. My money comes outside of there. And I do work outside of YouTube. And that's how I get my money and income. So just think of it that way. And, I think YouTube is going through a very frustrating time. Frustrating for the YouTubers. But I have faith that things will pan out once they realize don't hurt the smaller channels. It's the bigger channels that need a little bit of reprimanding every now and again. But again, YouTube has to figure that out on their own. I'm just letting it ride out. But I'm not leaving. I just want to make that very clear. And I actually bulleted that as something I wanted to end the show with, is that I am frustrated with YouTube. But I'm not leaving YouTube. I'm just branching out from it. And that's what this show is, just me branching out from YouTube and looking into different horizons and seeing how far the Dark Avenger Nation can expand. And that's what this is. It's expanding the Dark Avenger Nation. And I'm hoping that everybody who enjoys the stuff here, new, old, I hope all of you are sharing the Dark Avenger Nation. And like I said, links are in the description below. Comic Frontline's Discord is where the nation is as far as Discord. I don't have my own Discord anymore. Dysfunctional Gaming is a wonderful, awesome community of gamers that I met that literally I enjoy watching their streams. They enjoy watching my streams. I love talking with them on the Discord, and they have a great time talking with me on the Discord. That's another place you guys should check out. Link is in the description again if you're on YouTube. If you're on SoundCloud, hopefully I'll find a way to put a link in the description on SoundCloud. Or you can go on my Twitch channel, and there's a link to the Dysfunctional Gaming Discord there. Comic Frontline's link is on my YouTube channel. Check out both Discords. Both are amazing communities, welcoming communities, and if you're looking for somebody to talk video games, comic books, whatever, you will find tons of people with the same passion on these two Discords, on these two communities. Wonderful people that will have hour-long conversations with you on the Discord. That's why I only promote places that are A, safe, B, welcoming, and C, a place where you could share your opinion and not have to worry about being judged. And that's what both communities are. You could share your opinion, you could share your passion, and not have to worry about people judging you. No, it's a safe place and have 1,000,001 wonderful people to talk with. I think that's what we all look for when it comes to the internet, and especially when it comes to sharing our hobbies. And Comic Frontline is like that, and Dysfunctional Gaming's definitely like that when it comes to gaming. Now on Comic Frontline there is the Dark Avenger Nation, which is us here as well as my gaming. But again, Dysfunctional Gaming is the gaming Discord that you definitely want to be a part of, as well as Comic Frontline. You could be a part of more than one Discord, and I think both Discords are worth your time, especially if you like both types. If you're a comic fan, if you're a gaming fan, both communities are definitely two communities you want to check out. Both are welcoming, both are safe, and both are freaking amazing. From the people to the things that they talk about to just the community themselves. Amazing. And with that, I think I'm going to end episode 0. I think I've covered everything that I'd like. Again, links are in my description below on YouTube for all of my social media and all the places you can find me. The Dysfunctional Gaming Discord, the Comic Frontline Discord, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, even though I'm never on it, Blogger, even though I rarely am on it. All of my links are there. And feel free to check all of that out. I hope you guys all enjoyed episode 0. This is the big setup. This isn't a first episode. This was more of like teasers, a couple of topics I'm talking about, and a reintroduction. So now, next month when episode 1 hits, we're going to get right into the trenches again, and we're going to get right into the topics and discussions when it comes to the Dark Avenger Podcast. And let the insanity begin again. Thank you all so much for being here. I love each and every one of you, new, old. I appreciate all of your love and support for anything I do within the Dark Avenger Nation. As always, take care, keep reading, keep collecting, and I will talk to you guys really soon in the next episode of the Dark Avenger Podcast.